Hi there. So, as I mentioned in my past video, I've lost about 20. Actually, I was this yesterday. I was 25 pounds after about 6 weeks. So, I want to talk to you about that and how I was able to do that. I got a few questions, and I'd like to respond to that. So, first of all, especially at any age, but especially if you're older, say over 50 or 40 or stuff, before you really look at a serious weight loss, I highly recommend you go see your doctor and you get your doctor to do blood tests on you and check you out to make sure there's no side things and side effects or things that you should know that in your blood work will appear, and any reason that could stop you from really addressing the weight loss. Now, for me, I was fed up with where I was at, and I wanted to quit a bunch of things. I wanted to change my life. And so I wanted to start with losing weight because I was disgusted with myself that I'd reached 210 pounds. The first thing, again, as I've mentioned before, was I quit drinking, which I'll talk about in another video. Today's video is really, I want to talk about intermittent fasting and what intermittent fasting is and how it changed a lot of things in my life about how I looked at the world and how I looked at some pre-existing beliefs that I'd been holding and why I held them and why you likely do as well. So intermittent fasting. So let's talk a little bit about historically about eating. If you go back hundreds and hundreds of years, like people would eat when there was food. And in the last 100 years especially, food's become more abundant. And in fact, as we can just walk down to, instead of going out and trying to catch dinner and chase some animal or something, or grow vegetables and wait half a year for them to grow, we just walk over to Safeways or one of the local grocery stores, Sainsbury or wherever, whatever country you're in, and you can pretty well buy to your heart's content, except during the coronavirus when people wipe out everything that's there out of panicking. So in the last 100 years, our eating habits, to be honest with you, and I didn't really think about this, but they've really gotten to be disgusting. And if you don't think they're not supportive, all you got to do is walk around and see how many people are obese, especially if you go into the States and places like that where people's eating habits are disgusting. But if you think about it, you get up in the morning, say 7 or 8 or whatever, times 6, you get up and you have a coffee and grab a piece of toast and some peanut butter or jam or a couple of eggs or bacon or whatever. And then that's only 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And a couple hours later, you're having coffee break and you're having a cookie and a coffee and some tea, and lunch comes around and you're eating whatever sort of is there. It might be a salad, it might be McDonald's or burgers or Wendy's or something like that. And you're wolfing down some fries and a burger. Mid-afternoon, we're back to coffee. Dinner time, or whatever you're having. And unfortunately, a lot of us have eating habits that are, bloody atrocious. And so you're eating almost these days in Western society, we're eating from like 7 in the morning till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so our body is constantly taking in food, taking in food, taking in food. And it's not getting the opportunity to burn, and we're not doing as much exercise as let's say we would have done 500 or 1,000 years ago, or we're running around trying to catch food or plant gardens and stuff like that. We've gotten lazy. We've gotten to we eat and eat and eat and eat and eat all day and all day and all day, and it's all unconscious. It's just sort of developed into our society. So what happened for me was I really wanted to lose weight, and I started with the alcohol, and then I started plateauing, and I went, well, these eating habits that I have really aren't supportive of me losing weight. And I had really had to start and look at what are my belief systems around food. And growing up, my parents tried to do what they thought was right, and what they did was they taught me all the eating habits of Western society, and I duplicated what they did. Get up in the morning, have a coffee, have something to eat, and spent most of the day in essence grazing Unfortunately, we're not cows and we don't sit out in fields. We're sitting at a desk or wherever we are, and sometimes we're in our car on the way to work, quaffing back an Egg McMuffin or whatever it was. And so when I started to try to lose weight, the alcohol, quitting the alcohol helped, and that probably was good for the first 10 pounds. But then I just kind of plateaued. And so I had to really start to challenge, why am I not losing weight? And why is it I have all this weight besides the alcohol? And then I had to really start looking at what are my eating habits? What am I eating? Like, why am I eating McDonald's? So, what are the types of foods that I'm eating? Am I eating enough salads? How is it contributing to my long-term health? Am I eating too much junk food? And there's another thing. Back in the 50s, there was one of the presidents at the time, and I can't remember. I'll do some more research for a future video, but one of the presidents got really sick. And what they attributed to his illness was fat, was all the fat in the food. And so we went into the humanity, or Western, especially Western society, we went into this long period where fats were made to be the culprit. And so a lot of the companies were taking fats out of food. You'd see milks with, everything down to skim milk. All the fats were taken out of the milk, and fat-free yogurt and fat-free this and fat-free that and fat-free everything under the sun. And fats were made the culprits. But the bottom line is 60% of our brain is fat. And so here we are taking out something that was actually vital to our health. But the worst thing was, what did the manufacturing companies, the food companies, replace fat with? They replaced fat with sugar. And we humans get addicted to sugar. And so all of a sudden you see, if you start reading labels, and the manufacturing companies have gotten incredibly brilliant. They're amazingly good at renaming sugar. And so there's like 50 things that are actually sugar, everything from high fructose corn syrup to stevia to sugar and brown sugar, white sugar, and all this other stuff. And it's almost impossible to see how many times sugar is buried in our food. And again, we get addicted to it, which means is we just eat more. And that's what the manufacturing companies want us to do. They want to eat more so they can sell us more product, so they can make more money, and they can make more money, and they can make more money. And we've been the guinea pigs. And so a lot of Western society, especially, and again, let's go back to the horrible level of obesity in North America, especially in the United States and some of the Western cultures, but in Canada to a lesser degree, but still here as well. And it's a lot of it because we've been conned. We've been conned to thinking sugar is a good thing, that fats are bad. And we've been conned into the North American diet of grazing starting at 7 in the morning and grazing till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it's become a pandemic of its own light. And to me, it's probably way more dangerous than the coronavirus is, the North American eating habits. And you probably haven't challenged your own. But I'll tell you something, if you want to lose a lot of weight and you want to do it in a reasonable period of time, you're going to plateau at a number of different places. And what it did for me was it caused me to sit up and take notice. And then I had to really start looking at what I was doing. And, my 9, 10 hours or 15 hours of grazing a day was just helping me to put on the pounds, that and the beer, the weight from beer and alcohol and stuff like that. And so it was really easy to see why, in essence, I had gone up 40 pounds, like 25% of new body weight was a direct result of my eating and drinking and not exercising enough. So as I started to research, because I'm really serious about quitting or getting my weight down, and I've gone down 25 pounds already. I got about 15 to 20 pounds left to go. I want to get down to sort of 165, 170. And which I figure out, my goal is the end of August. And my guess is I'll get there sometime before then if I stay, because I've been really juiced. Juiced is the wrong word. Well, juiced, I don't know if it is, but I've been really happy with the results that have been starting to happen. So what I did is when I plateaued around 195, I had to really start to go, okay, how else can I change this? And so when I started doing research, I stumbled on a couple of people. And I started learning about a thing called intermittent fasting. And the intermittent fasting is really about challenging this long-term paradigm we have about our eating habits and about the fact that we eat for such a long period of time that it doesn't give our bodies the time to lose weight or burn fat or, all these other things. And so I started going, okay, my window of fasting is really going from, say, 9 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. So it's only 10 hours long. So it's not really a lot of time for my body to burn fat. And there's other factors I'm going to get into, ketosis and a keto diet and carbohydrates and things like that, and glucose and insulin burning and all the stuff I'll get into because I really want to share all the stuff that I've been learning. But so I started to slowly change my window of eating and my intermittent fasting period. And I dropped breakfast and I started going sort of from, say, 10 till 8. And so, it was up to sort of a 10-hour window. And as I increased my window of not eating, and I found the pounds started to go off fairly quickly. And now I'm doing another thing called intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting, which I'll tell you about not today, but another day. And so what happened for me was I slowly increased the window of not eating. So my intermittent fasting got bigger and bigger and bigger. So now my intermittent fasting in general for most days is about 4 hours. I generally only eat between 10 and 6 or 3 and 7. And I fast for the other 20 hours. So I'm fasting for 20 hours. And all I can tell you is it's made a huge difference. And something you're going to find if you get in, which I'll do another video, we'll talk about fasting. Like I always thought that, you think, oh God, if I fast, I'm going to be starving and blah, blah, blah. My longest fast when I was younger was 21 days, nothing but water with cayenne pepper. And I'll tell you something that's really startling. After 2 to 3 days, a couple of days, the hard day is the first day of not eating. The second and third day, it starts to get easier. But after day 3, all your body's doing is burning fat. And I found I had so much energy. I was running 4 or 5 miles a day and out and exercising. So the bottom line to start with for me, and if I could pass on, is start really looking into intermittent fasting. And I'm going to talk a lot more about it because I want to share everything that I've learned about it. Start really rethinking how many hours a day you eat. Start thinking about, do you really need, first of all, really understand how you've been conditioned into this eating habit that your forefathers going back hundreds and hundreds of years, we didn't eat like that. That's not the way humans existed. We ate when we had food and we didn't eat when we didn't, and we did just fine and we survived. So the amount of food that we're eating and the hours that we're eating are way too long. And start really looking at so how can you start shortening this down? And over the course of about 3 weeks, as I said, I got my window of eating down to about 4 hours a day. And the pounds just started to fall off. And again, 25 pounds in 40 days maybe. And, today I'm eating. I didn't eat for a couple days before this, and I'll just go back on to fasting, intermittent fasting, and alternate day fasting, which I'll talk about again. But really start looking into intermittent fasting. And the real premise is cut down your window of eating so that you can start to give your body more time to burn fat. And we're going to talk about the effects of carbohydrates and how it affects carbohydrates, which gets into burning sugar, as opposed to ketosis, which gets you into burning fat. We're going to talk about that in another video. But again, this is sort of my introductory to intermittent fasting. Start looking back at cutting down your window of fasting. You don't need a lot of the things. They always say breakfast is the most important thing. Well, it's really not. At least that's not how I found it. Go get a medical check before you start doing this. Make sure you're fine. Tell your doctor what you're planning to do, and some will be supportive, and if they're not, find another one that is. And I was fortunate when I was younger. I've had a great doctor, and I've always shared what I'm doing. And he said, "Hey, go for it." And and he always stays in the loop, and it always supported me trying things. And something else shared in the future, I got over MS and vasculitis in the course of my life, and I did most of them naturally. So, but I'll talk to you about that again. So again, this is just I wanted to introduce you to the concept of intermittent fasting and how it can change your life. And I hope you have a great day. And please subscribe if you're interested in what I have to share. And at the very minimum, give me a like, or leave a comment if this is helping you, or if what I'm sharing is in any way contributing a positive effect on your life. Even if it's a negative effect, leave a comment. At least I know that I can, I'll listen to what you have to say. Take care. This is Paul signing off. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Talk to you soon. Bye now.